Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday Tea Time for St Andrews Golf Magazine. Tonight I'm joined by Les Bailey of Pro Golf Now and we'll be discussing the latest happenings in the world of golf. We'll also be previewing this week's Players' Championship, the tournament known by many as the fifth major, and we'll be discussing whether it deserves that status and where, if it ever does become a fifth major, if that's right or not. But last week we had three pretty good events. The championship at Laguna National, which was supposed to be in South Korea, but due to a lack of sponsorship, it moved to Singapore, and it was won by Chile's Felipe Aguilar in possibly the most outrageous fashion at any golf tournament's been won, where he finished 2-2 and birdied and eagled the last two holes to win by one shot from Anders Hansen. Pretty amazing finish from a guy who's won once before, also in Asia as well. I don't think can you recall a finish quite like that, Les?
No, and it just goes back to the old story. Sometimes the golf god is just with you, and sometimes he and obviously he had a little luck, and the runner-up didn't.
Well, I mean, Anders Hansen seemed to have control of the tournament throughout the week, and he played pretty well on Sunday as well. But it was a 62. And Aguilar shot 28 on the back nine on the final day to win.
Yes,
it's quite remarkable, really.
Some days the putts just drop. The hole looks like a tub.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a good event, and hopefully next year with the sponsorship, the event they're hoping to return to South Korea. Obviously now with the President's Cup there next year as well. They'll want a big event, to attract players to come and play over there ahead of the President's Cup. But also last week you had the Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow. Phil Mickelson for a long time was in contention. Didn't quite get it going on the final day. Justin Rose was up there as well, and as ever with Rory McIlroy, he had one bad round. It was the Friday, I think, where he shot 76. And it really took him out of contention, really, and he shot a good round at the weekend, but couldn't quite get to the top again. Top 10 finish again.
That's getting to be pretty a common theme with him right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it is. When he won the two majors, he ran away with them, and I'm not really sure. He came from behind at the Australian Open to beat Adam Scott, but since he's got back on the PGA Tour, it's just like he seems to always find one round to just tear him up. He's had, 5 top 10 finishes?
Yeah, I mean, the last 6 months have been really, really good. From in fact, 8 months, really, from the PGA through to now. He's had so many top 10s, and as ever, I mean, the same with Dubai, the same with Abu Dhabi. He had a bad round or a bad hole that cost him. Good evening, Elizabeth.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Les.
So
howdy.
We're just discussing last week's golf on the PGA Tour, and we'll be coming to the LPGA pretty shortly.
Okay.
I know you'll definitely want to discuss that.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's same with Dubai, where he had a bad final round, and obviously a Honda Classic as well, and the Masters. And so, I mean, it's building up. I mean, it's a good sign ready for Pinehurst, because obviously they changed the graphs, as you were saying last week, to be more like what they have at Pinehurst. And players are raving about. Phil Mickelson said it was possibly the best course design he'd seen.
Yeah.
So it's a good indications for Mickelson as well. He's had such an indifferent season, but he gets to North Carolina and those vibes are going, and it's good to see.
Yeah, Phil's one of them guys that can get up in the morning and if he feels right, he'll shoot 62. If he doesn't feel right, he'll shoot 82. You never can tell with Phil.
Yeah.
It depends on his frame of mind that day.
Yeah, and he nearly won, but I mean he was just not quite there on the final day. But JB Holmes came out victorious, his first win anywhere in 6 years. He's obviously well-documented illness, and I think it was an elbow injury, which have really hampered him in the last 4 or 5 years. And discussing before the show with Les, it's quite a surprise win, really, because his previous wins have been on wide open resort-style golf courses, and he comes to Quail Hollow that's going to have the PGA soon, tight, really, really demanding shot-wise, shot-making-wise, and he comes away with a win.
Yeah. Well, back again to the old golf god, sometimes he's just with you, and this was his week.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see if he can go on from here. And obviously, 2008, when he was in the Ryder Cup side, he was a bit of a folk hero, really, and he could bomb the ball miles and really amp up the crowd. And it'd be interesting to see if he can get anywhere near the team this year.
Yeah.
He performs well over the summer.
Yeah, that'd be real interesting to see him back in there again.
Yeah, I think obviously he's a good partner in four balls maybe, where he can really go for it, and you can have a conservative player alongside him. It would be good maybe for the American team to have another bomber.
Yeah. Got a couple already, yeah.
Yeah. So last week on the LPGA, Stacey Lewis finally won for the first time in 2014, and she did it in style, winning by 6 shots. Elizabeth, another amazing win on the LPGA. It's star after star at the moment.
I love what's going on the LPGA because we've got a lot of people now who are playing very good golf. I mean, it was time for Stacey to win. If she hadn't won pretty soon, I think she would have slit her wrists, and the rest of us would as well. How many times can you come in second or in the top 5 without actually claiming the title, closing the deal on Sunday?
Yeah.
But it's really just absolutely wonderful from my point of view because there's always good golf, and I can count on some excitement. In fact, I loved her win. Don't mistake that. But I was a little disappointed on Sunday because Saturday, when everybody was in, it looked to me like we were going to have a major struggle, a major war with about 12 players.
Yeah.
On Sunday, and that isn't what materialized at all. I mean, one after another, they just fell back, and Stacey kept going. It was great.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good to see a tour, a sport, if you like, where the stars are performing week in, week out. Michelle Wie, another top 5 finish. You finished 3rd. And you really now. You build into the summer with the US Women's Open at Pinehurst, which you're no doubt looking forward to, Elizabeth.
Very much so. I now have a St. Andrews plaid tartan shirt to go with my pieces of paper.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was pretty discussing the fact that we have credentials for the US Women's Open. When I was actually on a night out with my housemate, and I saw the email come through, and I was pretty excited to see. Because,
it's exciting. Very exciting.
It's good to see, and it's going to be such a great tournament, and as all the other majors are this summer for the LPGA, and it's great to see Stacey Lewis after what she did at the Women's British Open. She's had a struggle just to not get over that line to win, and now she's won. And you have all the top players, and all we need now is Suzanne Petterson to regain fitness, and you'll have 7 or 8 players that are going to tending for the majors.
Yeah, we were chatting about Petterson earlier today and wondering whether or not she lost her fire, whether or not that failure to get to the top that was just so powerful, such a driving force for her at the end of last year, as she didn't realize that dream, and then she had a back injury, and we're wondering if now, even though she's back on the course and apparently healthy physically, if she still has that burning mental hunger to win. And she didn't play like she did. I didn't see somebody trying to win. I saw somebody trying to play a competent game.
Well, sometimes even when people say that they're, quote, healthy again, they're really not. There's
Yeah.
still some nagging, you know, they get up, their back hurts or whatever. Uh, I mean, we're still seeing Jason Day have trouble with his thumb, and it's been going on now for
Yes.
2 months, And one minute he's okay, and the next minute the thumb problems come back. So
Yeah.
I question if she's really healthy or not. I mean, she seems to be the kind of person that always has a fire lit under her, but
But I didn't
when
see that fire this weekend,
well,
Lex.
that could very well be because she's still not really healthy yet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Just a thought and a theory.
No, it will be good to see her come back and to set up what will undoubtedly be a great summer for the LPGA and the LAT as well. Um, the women's game have 5 majors, and this week at Sawgrass is the Tournament Players Championship, and it's always the event that the media, which we all are, have built up to be the 5th major. My opinions on it are well documented in this month's edition of the magazine, actually, that the championship was better when it was in March. It was the first big event of the year. It really set the scene for Augusta. It had a great following because it was spring break. The crowds were big. The golf course played as a natural golf course in terms of if it was dry, it was firm and fast. If it was wet, it was target golf, like it was designed to be.
Right.
And then they have this major overhaul. I mean, what I can't get my head around is they moved the event to the month where it's supposed to be warmer, drier, and they put in an irrigation system to cope with this, so say, 100-year storm, which they seem to get every March. But they don't get that storm now, so the golf course plays like a brick road. And the 3 most thrilling holes in golf they really do frighten the players into playing so defensively. And I personally think the tournament should be in March. It was better fit there.
Well, for some reason, well, just FYI, because I lived in Florida for so long, uh, I heard on this morning on them discussing the golf course, and they had to dig a ditch around the golf course so they could drain the swamp out to actually build the golf course to start with. Okay, I lived in a community in Florida just like that, where they had to build drainage canals just so they could build houses. Uh, that's it's hard to argue with. I mean, do you realize that the purse at the Players is more than it is at any of the majors, except for the PGA Championship?
Yeah, well, $10 million this year.
It's a $10 million purse this year, which is only, the PGA Championship is $10 million.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really kind of close is the WGC Bridgestone, which is 9.5.
But then you look at there's something wrong with golf. You've got a $10 million purse, and only 1.8 million of it goes to the winner.
That's because you have a field of 144 top-notch players, and you got to pay them to show up. That's something I could think of.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that and I appreciate that, but I think that the incentive for winning should be much greater in terms of financial reward. I think 2 or 3 million wouldn't be out of place.
Well, it's got 600 points, FedEx points, and it still has a 10-year exemption.
Yeah.
So there's a lot for winning that tournament already. I mean, 10 years without having to worry about ever winning again, and still be able to play on the PGA Tour is not a bad deal. That's no Monday qualifying for 10 whole years if you win the tournament.
It is good. Where do we sit on this? Does men's golf need a 5th major? I personally don't think so.
I think they do, because I think eventually they're going to move the PGA offshore. And can Europe produce a $10 million purse for the PGA? that's a question I have,
Well,
and
I think my opinion on this, and I did write a blog quite a while ago, is that if you move it around the world to mature golfing markets, so Europe, South Africa, Australia, maybe Japan, um, you then have a really good following straight away. The spectators will turn out. The sponsors will definitely turn out because it's a global major. It's a unique tournament. And you could do this once every 5 years, say, or even less than that. Um,
so so why not? Why not do this? Why not make the Players Championship a real major? I mean, it's already got. I mean, you get 10-year exemption. There's 600 points, just like the majors. It's got everything. It's got a ton of prize money. Why not make it a major and bring some more notoriety to it, like uh, Mike Kwan did for the Avion? You know, add that prestige to it, and they'll bring back the crowds that they had when it was in March, and the notoriety that they had when it was in March. So my personal opinion is go ahead and make it a major. Let's do it.
well,
Let's
I
have.
think I think I possibly agree with you if they actually make the PGA a global major where it goes
Yes,
to these mature markets.
that's
No,
that,
there's no point in taking a major championship to China or to Korea
right,
because the
right.
spectators will not turn out and they don't have the grasp of the etiquette of the game, which is what the WGCs and the Volvo China Open and all these other tournaments are for, is to give their players a chance to compete, but also educate and inform about the ways of the game. And so I think somewhere like Australia, okay, there's a time difference, but we all watch TV at different times of the day anyway. Um, and I think that the PGA will benefit from it because the PGA doesn't have um, that signature thing like the Players' Championship does with the last three holes. You know.
Right, and I think it only makes sense to make it a fifth major if you're planning on moving the PGA offshore. That's that leaves three majors in the U.S. Uh, we don't lose a major over here. You still have the Open Championship
Yeah.
on its normal rotation, and put the PGA wherever it's going to draw or do something good for the game of golf. So
So, I
yeah,
mean, Elizabeth, would you say? I mean, I personally think the Evian. I mean, the Evian's always been a major on the LET anyway, but as now being an LPGA major, it's certainly a good addition to the majors.
It
It's the
is, and
one.
it adds a different flavor to it as well
right, right.
for the LPGA. I mean, I think that the deepening flavor of having a major in Europe, and in particular in France, but I'm kind of a Francophile outside golf, so I have a little bias coming in. Still, I think that adding the Evian has been all positive and no negative. And I hate it when we've got golf going in Asia and Australia. I mean, I feel like a 2-year-old whose sleep pattern has been disrupted. But but I could handle it, for a few days. No, I think you're right. Needs to go someplace else.
Yeah, I think the Players' Championship, and the point I wrote about in the article is Dean Beeman and Pete Dye created the best tournament in the world. It had the most fair golf course. It had the best facilities. It had a great time of year, a big following. It was already well respected by the players, and I think they've done all this work since 2007 to try and achieve something that was already achieved. I think if you leave it in March where it was, the status of the tournament eventually becomes that major. And I don't think there's a problem with it being before the Masters at all, personally.
Well, it kind of gives the Masters is still the quote first major of the year, and everybody really anticipates it. And there's nothing better for a sports fan than the anticipation of something,
Yeah.
and having to wait that from the time they tee off at the Hyundai, having to wait that 3 months until 3.5 months until we get to that first major really makes it have a lot of impact.
Yeah.
if we had one in March, would it be the same? I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but I think anyway, the Players' Championship is what it is. I mean, alongside LPGA at Wentworth, I would say they're the two best golf tournaments outside of the majors.
Right.
Obviously, Wentworth doesn't quite have the field that the Players has, but it has the golf course every bit as good and with more history. And so I think those two tournaments really do stand alone. And obviously this week we don't have a Tiger Woods. His love-hate relationship with Sawgrass, where he's won two Players' Championships, a U.S. Amateur, but he's also had some dire days, and he's withdrawn through injury, and but he's not going to be there this week. And I think I picked Matt Kuchar as the favourite in the magazine this month, purely because he's had such a superb season, and he's finally got that dramatic win at the Heritage. He's had a couple of weeks off. His game suits that course perfectly. He's won there before. I just don't think that there's anybody else that's playing with the level of consistency that's needed to win round there.
Yeah, and in my power rankings and posts today, I actually picked Kevin Na to maybe come through and win. He was close there in 2012, and he just couldn't get the job done because he was struggling with that, delay of game and slow play problem but he really battled Matt Kuchar all the way until the final round. He actually fell off on the final round there. I think he finished tied 8th or something like that. But and the one guy that could probably give Kuchar a run for his money is Bubba Watson, and Bubba doesn't like the place either. So
his best finish there is tied 37.
Yeah, he just but he showed us this year that he's able to adjust his attitude a little bit. Now, if he adjusts his attitude and comes there with a positive frame of mind, which is not easy for Bubba, but he definitely needs to be looked at as a potential winner.
Yeah, I mean he definitely does. I mean it's just a very, very tight golf course for him, and there's not much room off the tee, and I just don't think that he comes into the event. Obviously, he comes off the back of his Masters win, but I just don't think he looks forward to the event really, even though he's from Florida.
Right.
But
it's a different part of Florida, though. He lives out in the Panhandle. That's where he's from.
I don't know Florida as well as you do.
Yeah.
Well, the Panhandle it's a separate country, Matt.
It is. It's just an extension of Alabama and Georgia down there.
Yes, it's an independent republic, and you don't get to.
Yeah. Well, Phil Mickelson coming off his good showing last week. He won at the Players in 2007, I believe, and I mean it'd be good to see him contend this week, and then we're getting closer and closer to Pinehurst, and maybe he's timing his run to perfection.
Well, I was watching Morning Drive this morning, and they were talking about Phil has got his 3-wood under control and is pounding it for some yardage. And if he can do that, stay away from that driver this week, he might be in contention.
Yeah.
I mean, the golf course is long, but they've played some long. It used to be a monster, but nowadays it's long and it's tight. But Phil can keep it between the ditches. He can definitely get hot and win a golf tournament.
Yeah, I think he could, if he gets off to a reasonable start this week and he doesn't fall too far off the lead, he could be in contention. I personally don't think Rory will figure this week because his record at Sawgrass is not great at all, and it's not really the course I see that suits him. I mean, if he plays well, obviously he can win anywhere.
It's a ball striker's golf course, and Rory can get hot with ball striking. A couple others that I've listed in my website were Henrik Stenson, who really hasn't got off to a good start this year. I think maybe there was too much. He won too much money last year. Kind of maybe they kind of maybe sapped his his desire to win, but he's going to break out one of these days and start playing the way he did last year. And he's one of the best ball strikers on the planet when he's
And
playing well.
he can just use that 3-wood and hit it 300 yards.
Yeah, he can pound it, and if he just gets a little bit hot and quits spraying the ball, he's had the driver problem this year too, where he's just at the inopportune time has just pull hooked one or double crossed himself or pushed it right out of bounds, or just at the wrong time when it cost him a couple extra strokes that he couldn't afford to lose. So a couple other good ball strikers that need to be considered this week is Justin Rose, Adam Scott. All of them hit the ball well, which is required of the players. Adam, if he can figure that putter out for one weekend, he can certainly be in contention. And Justin, I don't know if Justin's really come back from his shoulder injury yet.
Well, he played well last week, and for a long time he was in contention. But obviously getting towards the US Open again, these good vibes come back from 12 months ago, and hopefully he's getting over that injury. And I think he's certainly got the temperament and the quality to win.
Yes, he does.
So as far as Adam Scott goes, I mean, he's had such a nothing sort of year so far, with that one exception being Bay Hill, where he played so well for 3 rounds and then blew up at the end. But I just don't think that. I think what a year he had last year, but that defeat to Rory in the Australian Open really.
Well, that was a kick, wasn't it? I still think that had to hurt. He swept. He ran the deck down there. He ran the table. If you play snooker, he ran the table down there.
Yeah.
Except for that Sunday at Royal Melbourne, Royal Sydney.
Yeah. I think I think possibly somebody to look out for this week is Luke Donald. He finished, I think, second here quite a while ago, and he had a very good chance to win at the Heritage, which is also a Pete Dye golf course, and he was just beaten by an incredible shot by Kuchar. But I think he could be somebody that nobody's really speaking about. Same with Lee Westwood, obviously coming off the win, but he had a very poor week last week, unexpectedly. But he could do some damage.
I had Lee Westwood picked to win Quail Hollow, and he didn't even make the cut. he disappointed me again.
Just when you think he's coming back to where he was, he just throws that in. But I think generally, with Billy Foster back on the bag, Mike Walker as a coach, I think that he's going in the right direction, and he's played well here before. He should have won when Tim Clark won. Westwood really threw it away. So
and back to Luke Donald with his added. Who's he working with? Butch Harmon or somebody that's trying to give him a little more length?
I think it's Chuck Cook.
Well, somebody's trying to add some length to his game, and he definitely has the rest of the game to be competitive if he can just get a little more length off the tee.
Yeah.
Especially at Sawgrass.
So I think we've covered about 7 players in the field, which is pretty good.
Well, there's 45 of the 50 players in the field are in the top 50 in the world. So, I mean, it's kind of hard. You can almost put a name on the dartboard, throw the dart, and say, okay, that person got a chance. I mean, and we didn't even talk about, first timers don't win at Sawgrass. So, you can pretty much X out, people like Jordan Spieth, who probably will play well. But no first timers ever won. Like Jimmy Walker, we didn't even talk about Jimmy Walker. He's leading the FedEx Cup, but nobody's given him much of a an opportunity to win this tournament. So.
Well, as you said last week, he needs to perform well on the East Coast, and
he does. He's
needs
not
shown any signs of doing that really. I think he had a decent Masters, but that's really it. And I don't think he'll really contend this week. It's a very different golf course since the start of the year. So I think it's going to be another interesting event. And although the event doesn't really grab me as it did 7 or 8 years ago, it was really something I always looked forward to watching. You know,
Yeah.
it really was. The 17th hole, but now, I mean, the 17th hole has become so hard that it's just not got that. You're just waiting for the ball to go into the water. You know.
Well,
So,
I personally think that the real killer. Yes, I know the 17th is a dramatic hole, but after you get through 17, then you have to play 18, and 18 can really be. I mean, you have to put an exact tee shot in the fairway to really play 17 right, and I mean, it happened to Lingmerth. What was it, Lingmerth last year that got a little squirrely on 18 and couldn't get the ball close to the hole because he was out of position.
yeah,
It requires.
that's a hard hole. Really
It
is.
is.
You
It is.
have to
People
put
don't.
it in the fairway on the right position, and if you miss it right, you've got a really hard shot. Obviously, if
And
you
if
miss it
you
left, you're swimming.
you're swimming right, and people put a lot of credence in 17, but 18 is a monster, especially with a tournament on the line. I mean, Sergio played the last two holes in 13 strokes last year. And
Yeah,
Tiger played it in even par. So, that's where Tiger won the tournament, was on that last hole, last two holes.
yeah, it's incredible, really. I mean, Sergio coming back to a place where he's won before. We haven't really talked about him. There's so many great players in the field,
Yeah.
and I really hope we get a tournament where you have 7 or 8 players in contention on Sunday, and they come down to those last 3 holes.
Oh, if you want that, you're gonna have to start being LPGA fans.
Hey, it was pretty good last year. There was, Jeff Maggart was in the tournament, David Lingmerth was in the tournament, Sergio Garcia was in the tournament, and so was Tiger with 2 holes left to play. All 4 of those guys had a chance to win that tournament, and Tiger went out and won it. So
yeah, I mean, Tiger, for all this seeming hype about how he doesn't like the course, he's finished second there in 2000, obviously to Hal Sutton, and he's won there twice, and he's won a US Amateur there. So, I mean, that is the difference. The key difference at the moment between Tiger and Rory is that when Tiger doesn't particularly like somewhere, or he doesn't particularly play well, he can still win.
Because he never gives up.
Yeah.
He's always grinding,
That is the big difference with him and any other golfer on the planet. So,
well, there's still been nobody to repeat there in the histories of the tournament, and Jack's still the only guy with 3 victories. So, there's a bunch that can tie him up this week, but because there's a couple of 2-time winners on there, but
yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. It's very much like the Champions League football over here. Nobody's defended that in the 25 years of the tournament.
yeah.
And it's the same with the players at Sawgrass. I mean, it's such a difficult golf course to win once on. Probably need a couple of years rest from it after you've won there. So so it would be great. I mean, obviously there can't be a repeat winner this year because obviously Tiger's not there. So
right.
But it'd be interesting to see. I think Matt Kuchar is the favourite, so we'll wait and see.
Well, he's your favourite. He's not mine.
Yeah. That's what I said.
I just had to throw that in there,
That's why I said I think he's the favourite.
All right. We'll let you have that, Matt.
But it's going to be another exciting week on the various tours of the world. Just a quick mention, the Madeira Island Open, obviously nowhere near as big as the Players, but it's the 1,500th European Tour event since the tour started 42 years ago. So a milestone for the tour. Not a notable field, but nevertheless an opportunity for a young and upcoming player to win like Peter Uihlein did a couple of years ago.
By the way, did you see, were you able to watch any of the Champions Tour this last week with Jack and...
I read about it, but we don't get the Champions Tour here, unfortunately.
Well, they had Jack, Lee, and Gary playing in a threesome, and Those old guys can still play the game, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
They
remarkable.
they were trying to box Jack out at one hole there, and he chipped one up there. And Jack's never been known to be a great chipper, but he put one up there about 6 inches and made them all putt.
I mean, just a quick to extend on that. I mean, Elizabeth, there really isn't. I mean, I don't think is there a Champions Tour sort of tour for the ladies' game. I don't think there is
Well,
anything.
the legends play a schedule. They do play a schedule.
Yeah.
Les, I think, has actually attended a Legends match, but it's not as hyped up as the Champions Tour.
No.
I mean, the Legends are more a part of the LPGA as a promotional arm,
Yeah.
showing up here and there and hyping the game and hyping women's golf.
Yeah.
So it's not played at the same level, which is really too bad because there's some fine golfers who are just a little bit beyond the young whippersnapper stage who could stay out there and continue to play.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good if you had, like at the Masters, you have the ceremonial starters.
Yeah.
Well, that's
something like that,
That's always been my contention with one of the things that's wrong with the LPGA is the leadership from the older players. I mean, pretty much it's Annika Sorenstam, and as great as she's not American. I mean, and I know Nancy Lopez showed up at the Solheim Cup, but Nancy needs to be a part of the festivities. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player are the heart and soul of the PGA Tour. And they are at the events. There's commercials about them. They talk. Yeah. They're out there. They're people meet them. Arnie's still a fantastic ambassador of the game. Even though he doesn't play anymore. And the LPGA just doesn't have that kind of longevity with past players. At least I don't think so.
Well, part of the problem is they're still playing. I mean, look at Julie Inkster. She's still competing.
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah, well, she's out there, but
I know.
She would be an excellent. I mean, she was always a good ambassador of the game.
Yes. Look at Laura Davies.
Well, I was just about to say, Elizabeth, I think Laura Davies, I mean, one of the great golfers, male or female, in terms of she's won a few majors, she's won so many tournaments around the world, and she really has continued to support the LAT's development across the globe.
Yeah, but she also absolutely competes. Yeah. I mean, when I watch Laura Davies play, it lifts my soul to see that woman out there competing in a very authentic way. So she's not ready to be an ambassador. Maybe on the LAT, once you become a certain age, you want to be a grandmother.
Yeah, but Arnie was always an ambassador of the game, even when he was playing. I mean, yeah. You couldn't get next to him at a tournament when he was playing in the day, and Lee Trevino has always been there,
yeah. Yes.
So I don't agree with the fact that you can't be an ambassador if you're still playing.
Well, I understand that and don't argue with that at all. I don't have an answer. It's a curious question, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something maybe worth exploring as the LPGA develops, and as the LAT develops as well, as having something like the Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, where you have the best older players going around the world and really promoting the game,
Right, yeah. Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about, yeah.
Something like that would be very interesting to see. So it's another big week in golf for the Players' Championship at Sawgrass, set for another exciting week, and we'll hopefully be back at the same time next week to have a look back on the festivities at Sawgrass and look forward to next week's action. So from myself, it's good night and see you all next week.
All right, good night, Matt.
Good night, Matt. Good night, Les.
Good night, Elizabeth. Good night, Grandpa.